Welcome everybody to another episode of UnHacked. Dang, check my math on this, guys. What episode are we on? 12?
I believe 12, yeah.
Think so.
All right. Well, today, it's 13. I had to check. I had to actually check my math. Today we're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to start talking about specific types of breaches or tools that are used in breaches or risks or whatever, and then we'll tie those to real world examples. So today we're going to talk about keystroke loggers. Before we get into the topic, let's do our quick introductions. I'm Justin Shelley with Phoenix IT Advisors, formerly Master Computing. I do work in the Dallas, Texas area as well as Northern Nevada, so a little bit spread out there. And today I'm broadcasting live from my hotel, of all places. And I've got some construction work next door. That's great. So hopefully you can't hear that. I got my background blurred because you probably don't want to see my hotel bed. So that's me. And then Mario, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, followed by Bryan.
Sure. Mario Zaki with Mastec. We are located in the New Jersey and New York area.
Bryan Lachapelle with B4 Networks. We're located in Southern Ontario in beautiful Font Hill, Ontario.
Guys, you can go to, so you don't have to remember this, go to unhacked.live. That's our website, and all of our information is on there, little profiles on each of us, contact information, and even upcoming episodes. We've added that recently, so you can tell what we're going to talk about next week and the week after that and the week after that. So, all right, so today like I said, we're going to talk about keystroke loggers and learn a little bit about that technology, how it's used, and how we can prevent it. Let's see, guys, I'm going to punt this over to you to talk about just kind of a little bit technical, but not too technical, of what a keystroke logger is, how it works, how they get installed. So one of you guys want to take the torch and get started?
Yeah, I can dive in. So I'll just start real high level. Essentially, a keystroke logger is just either a piece of hardware or a piece of software that will capture every single character you type into your keyboard, and or in a case of a software keylogger, it doesn't even have to be something you're typing. It could be something you're copying and pasting. So anything that is generating text, it'll even capture things like your backspace. And so if you type something and then erase it, they've caught it. So high level, that's what it is, and how it could be used. I'll maybe pass that torch over to Mario.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, it's pretty much what it's doing is everything that you're entering, no matter if it's email, passwords, surfing the web, think of it as like a copy going into Microsoft Word. So it's literally creating a log of everything that you are typing and going into a Word document. The hacker or whoever gets it then can see exactly what they're doing. There's actually software out there that it's not only capturing keylogs, but monitoring your computer, what website you're going to, your email, and stuff like that. And it's actually like, we have customers that purchase this because they want to monitor their employees. So keyloggers can be used both maliciously, by through malware and hackers, or it can be, captured by employers for the benefit of the company.
Fair enough. We've actually kind of got three categories of what they're used for, right? We've got legit / legal use. We've got the little sketchy gray area, and then we've got just straight up asshole use, like don't do this kind of stuff, right? So let's go down this list as far as legit uses. Bryan, do you have examples of where? I mean, yeah, you could say employers. What else?
Yeah. So there's a couple of places where employers might want to use a keystroke logger legitimately. Maybe they're going to be monitoring, either servers or workstations where they're looking for unapproved activity. So it could be anything from maybe they're not supposed to be going to a certain website and it'll capture them typing in that website, or it could be looking for credit card information that they shouldn't be accessing or typing in. Anything that is potentially words that they might not want to have, maybe racial slurs or swearing, especially if they're dealing with employees that are front facing and dealing with the general public. There should be no reason for those type of activities, so they could potentially utilize that. A couple other areas they could use it legitimately: product development, to collect feedback or to enhance computer performance. So as an example, at a kiosk, they could potentially be recording information on what people are typing in, so they can get some feedback to understand what's being utilized for it. Assessments inquire information about what kind of issues people are running into and how to effectively address them. I'm sure there's more, but maybe Mario can jump in here.
We're talking about legitimate reasons.
Yep.
Well, like I actually have an example. So I did some work for a church, and they had a treasurer that they needed to have him release the position, and he didn't want to release it easily, even though it was a volunteer and he's been there for like 30 years. He's like, that's BS. Why do you want me to leave? And they were suspecting that he was doing some stuff, so they called me in and they're like, Mario, he won't give us our passwords, and we don't want him to know that we are getting into the system. So they had me get in a little hardware keylogger that you get it online. It's not that expensive. You put it in it's literally like a USB. It just connects to the mouse, to the keyboard, and we were able to put it in, and then we were able to get a log of all the passwords that he was doing. We didn't want to go in there and just do like a reset, because then he would know that we reset it. So once we were able to get the passwords, we were then able to do it when he wasn't there and log in and see what exactly he was doing. So that's like like an example of a legitimate thing that it would be used for.
Let me
obviously,
dig real quick.
Yeah.
Mario, okay, so I actually just wrote this down to see if to ask you guys if you'd ever actually used one. You have. And so I haven't. I'll be honest, I've never actually plugged one in and used it. Although after this, I think I'm going to have to, just for kicks. So in my mind, I'm imagining logging every single keystroke, and that's going to spit out a text file of nonsense. Like, does it come with an application that tries to translate that into actual words, or is it just a long string of characters?
Essentially, I think from what I remember, is it paused or went to the next line after every like certain pause or something. But the first thing you'll see when you plug it in, they turn on the computer, the first thing you're going to see is the password of the computer. So the first thing is the password of the computer. Then you may have to, depending on the one that you have, piece it together. So, if you see an email address, like they've typed in an email address, chances are the very next thing is the password.
Right.
Then you can start seeing like certain bits and pieces. We do have a couple of customers that do monitor employee activity, and that one shows you, images and videos of the actual screen. So when you actually have the screen, and you can match it, and it'll tell you like, this is what was typed in at this time and stuff like that. So it makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I've used, I don't know if you're talking about the same product I've used for, I call it surveillance of employees or whatever. Those are very handy tools, but yeah, these straight up hardware keyloggers, I imagine, and I'm dating myself, I guess, because these days it probably uploads it to an AI server of some sort that can just put it all into easy to read English. I don't know. The malware versions, they've got to be able to pull more information as well of like what applications they're using and whatever. But a straight up hardware keylogger probably would be a little bit hard to use if I had to guess.
I'll date myself. A long time ago, I used to be a subcontractor for Circuit City, and it was it's their equivalent of like Best Buy's Geek Squad.
I was going to say, you better, for our younger audience, you better tell them what Circuit City is.
It's like, yeah, it used to be a computer store that is just like pretty much equivalent to like Best Buy now. And instead of having their own geek squad, they used to actually have technicians that they would dispatch, in the area. And they used to dispatch me to do some work. It was mostly for home users. And I fixed some lady's computer, and she asked me, she's like, hey, I want to be able to log everything my husband's doing on his computer. Can you help me with that? And this was a while ago, and keyloggers have been around for a while. I at the time I told her, I don't have anything for you. Maybe ask the people at Circuit City, because I wasn't allowed to really sell to them or do anything outside, my scope. But she did ask me. She had suspicion with her husband, and she wanted she wanted passwords to his email and stuff like that.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Hey, run away. There's no way I'd touch that one.
Yeah.
I had somebody back when I went to church, I had a church member want to spy on their teenage daughter. Wanted me to install something to spy on her and lock her out of everything and whatever else, and I declined.
Yeah, that falls a little bit on the gray zone, but there might be some valid reasons to monitor younger children to make sure they're not going to the wrong places. But easier there would probably just be putting the computer and or a device in a public area so that it's available.
And I think that's equivalent now to like parental control, like on phones and stuff like that. For if you have a daughter or something. I know when my daughter, once she gets a phone, I'm probably gonna put every monitoring software I can on there myself. But
because all she's gonna do is Google how to bypass dad's security, and every security application out there to monitor and protect kids, unfortunately, has a way around it. So
yeah,
don't I know it?
Know that going into it, future dad.
Yeah, my son is going to be an IT guy, mostly because he's learning how to get around all the crazy things that I do to try to stop him from going on the internet in the middle of the night. And I just unplug his computer now. It's easier.
Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Nothing beats just taking the power cable. That's still the most effective way you can.
I mean, they're going to go buy a new power cable. I've seen that one played too. Hide the power cable. Oh, here's another one. Plug it back in. I don't know. So we won't digress too much, because I could go on for a while about that. I've raised 4 children to adulthood, and I have yet, even in this industry, living and breathing, eating, sleeping this industry, I have not found a way to completely protect them, unfortunately. So. This is not a parenting advice show, but I would call me offline and we'll talk. So let's get back to keystroke loggers. So we've got a couple real world experiences here. Bryan, have you ever dealt with one personally?
I have not personally dealt with one. I've never used one or I mean, I've used a software version of them, not hardware. We've had clients want to monitor activity on workstations to see if there was corporate espionage happening, and it was sort of similar to what Mario was talking about. It had a keystroke logger in it, but also recorded video and communications that were happening, all legitimate when it's done through for a business where it's disclosed in advance that anything you do on company computers can and will be monitored. But to see it out in the wild, I've seen articles and I've seen videos of people using keyloggers, but never actually experienced one directly myself.
Yeah, that's same for me. I've used the software I call it employee productivity software. That sounds much nicer than, hey, we're watching every damn thing you do on your computer and docking your pay if you whatever. There are good use cases for that, but anyway. That said, the what we want to talk about today is really the truly malicious use of keystroke loggers. And and as we were researching this topic, I wasn't super excited to find out that my, the company that got breached, which is LastPass, and one of the ones we're going to talk about, is in fact a password management tool that I use. So that can be maybe some fun conversation / debate here in a minute. But first, I thought it was kind of interesting and almost comical that we had a student get arrested for using a keylogger to change his grades. Did you guys see that one?
I did see that article. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about it, Bryan.
Well, basically, what they, if memory serves me right, essentially what they did is they waited until the professor or the teacher was gone, slipped in a keylogger between his keyboard and his computer, and were able to capture his password to effectively go in later and change the grades that they were receiving. Obviously, two-factor authentication was not used in this case, but anyway, they were changing the grades, and they had changed dozens and dozens of grades to make them look better. And the only reason that they found out is that the teacher noticed that they had like the grades were different than what they had originally entered in, and so they reported it, and authorities were called in. That's as much as I can remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it was insane to see an article like that where it was used in an educational setting.
Yeah. Jail time. I don't know. Did you see that one too, Mario? Do you know how much time you got? I did not.
I actually had it open. I didn't see how long they
Okay.
got, but it's actually kind of crazy that it's how easy it is to actually get your hands on these things. That's the problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also real quick, I want to make the point on like the stuff like this. These kids, I doubt that they consider themselves criminals when they're doing it. That a lot of times this doesn't get thought through very well. I don't remember what I was researching a while back. It was several years ago, but I was kind of shocked to learn that it's a federal offense to, without authorization, access anybody's technology, network, whatever. And they used the extreme example of even going like sitting outside in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant that has Wi-Fi access for customers, and you're not a customer and you use it, so you technically don't have their permission. I mean, just something as silly as that is criminal behavior.
Yeah.
So be careful. What might seem like a funny, haha, look what I did, could land you in jail. So changing grades, like also.
So I did find some information on it, by the way. I researched it real quick here. So they, from what I'm reading, the student did not get charged, but the actions that caused was the damages were over $5,000, and the reason they say that is because it actually cost the authorities $67,500 to investigate.
Oh wow.
To investigate why and how this had occurred, right? So they had called in the legal authorities like police or FBI or whatever it was, and if he would have been found guilty, he probably would have faced in a small case like this, where it's a student, probably just community service and probation. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely a criminal offense. And in this case, it's cost the public a massive amount of money just for somebody trying to change your grades, right? Well, they didn't know it was a student. It could have been an outside hacker, right? So
it says he changed it over 90 times within a course of 21 months.
Could you imagine?
For him and his friends.
It would have been easier for them to just do the work to get better grades.
That's what I'm saying. Do your damn homework.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I think that of like, so my I used to live in a community where the main industry was, I'm blanking on prisons, but they have correctional centers, right? Correctional facility. And I like to use that name because it's a comical misnomer. Correctional officers, or, that we don't really rehab these people. They don't generally come out and change their lives. I know this from family members who have been locked up most of their life. Anyways, but so I've got a cousin who's been on the inside of the system forever, and then I have several relatives who have been correctional officers at these facilities, and I'm fascinated at the raw talent that some of these people have, like just real raw talent and skill. And it's tragic that, they use it for, something that's illegal, and then they end up locked up their whole lives. So, yeah, God, kids, do your homework instead of doing all this work, this research, this effort to go in and change your grades. Take that same amount of time, read a book. I don't know. So there's my soapbox for the day. Any other thoughts on the grades? If not, we're going to move on to LastPass.
No.
All right, I'm not hearing anything. So we'll come back to whether one should or should not continue to use LastPass. But let's talk about their breach. So I think, Bryan, you started last time. Mario, I'll let you start this time. Tell us a little bit about how LastPass got hacked.
So it seemed, and I'm not sure how it happened, exactly how they targeted, but it seemed like a hacker targeted one of the DevOps engineers of LastPass. Now, LastPass has, as you guys know, it stores and encrypts users' passwords. So, and there's a vault that everything is protected in, and only 4 people in this company had access or the keys to get into the vault, like virtual vault, and they weren't sure how the hacker gained access to this highly encrypted, lengthy password, and it seemed like he had malware that was sent to him on his home computer, or that was installed on his home computer through a program called Plex. Now, I used to use Plex myself.
Allegedly. So let me just real quick say that they won't confirm. Plex is basically denying that there's any evidence that they were the ones breached, but that is the assumption. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly how they were able to get him to run this program or install it at home. That's, I'm not sure, but essentially he ran it at home. It installed a keylogger in the back back end of the system, or in the background. And that happens a lot with a lot of freeware, like a BS software. Sometimes they give you a software for free, but it installs like 8 other things in the background.
Right.
So essentially, this was one of them, and they gained access to that password and was able to use it.
By the way, this is also known as shadow IT.
Yes.
Installing things that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Side note, like if something is free, you're the product, right? Like you're the one, you're the product, and whether that is for legitimate purposes or for illegitimate purposes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so if somebody is giving you free software, in most cases, you're the product and or the victim. So just be careful.
Yeah. It is. We'll come back to how we prevent this kind of stuff, but that's just kind of a spoiler alert. Shadow IT is a common problem, a common reason for this type of breach. So anyways, go ahead, Mario.
That's about it. So, I mean, it seemed like they were able to copy that password or log that password, and then they were able to then use it to get into the LastPass and hack them, which was sad because LastPass at that time, I believe, was the leading, especially among managed service providers like us, the leading password management software. And since then, I know myself, I've moved a lot of my customers away from there because of the breaches that they had. But and I know some people that have stuck with it and some that have actually moved on. So
let's debate this. And actually, we can start with the question of, is it even a good idea in the first place to have a password manager, since it now becomes a single point of failure? If somebody gets in, they now own you, right? If somebody got a hold of my password manager, and they've got everything, they've got every login. So you've got that, and then once a company gets breached, does that make them a risk in the future, or do they learn from their mistakes and actually become more hardened and a better option? So go, like I want some hair to fly, and like let's
Yeah.
get in and wrestle on this one a little bit.
I'll tackle this one. I believe 100% in password managers. If you don't use a password manager, it's highly likely you're going to reuse your passwords, which is even worse, or come up with some form of pattern to your passwords, which is predictable, which also is even worse. I believe password managers wholeheartedly, primarily because almost everything that I use the password manager with has two-factor authentication anyway.
Okay,
and so it becomes less important that the password gets out. I mean, it's still important, but with the added of a two-factor authentication, that just adds that extra level of security. And in most cases, password managers today, even the company that stores the password, this is where they've improved over time. The company that stores the password on your behalf are storing it with a hashed, it's essentially encrypted on their end, and even they don't have access to it. For example, LastPass and 1Password and some of these other ones, now it's stored at their end, encrypted, and they don't have the password, they don't have the decryption keys. Only your password that you use to log in to the system, and or your administrator, if you have an administrator, will have a backup decryption key to decrypt the passwords in the first place. So a lot more secure than they were once upon a time. And I strongly suggest everybody get a password manager.
If you lose your password to your password manager, you're done.
Yeah.
They can't get it for you. You know, it's
no.
I guess, I don't know. I haven't lost mine, so I can't say that there isn't a password reset, but I had an employee several years back who set up LastPass, forgot their password, and we couldn't get it. Again, I don't remember the details of it. I just know we had to start over, create him a new account, and start from scratch. There was no getting that back.
We actually had a customer, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that says, hey, I went on vacation, I came back, I can't remember my password. We use a program called Keeper. And you know, I don't know what the hell she was doing on vacation. Like, how hard did she, you know, have to drink for her to lose her
hard,
password?
yeah.
You know, but we couldn't get her password. And you can't reset it. You cannot reset your master password. But what I believe you can do is you can create another user, and then you can transfer those passwords to the new user.
If you can,
I've not heard that, but I've heard
if you can log in.
Yeah,
you can't log in. It's like when you're deleting the old user, it asks you, do you want to transfer these passwords to another user? And you can transfer it to another user. At least that's what Keeper lets you do.
What 1Password, because we use 1Password, what 1Password does is they allow the administrator of the account, the overall account, right, for all of the users to check a box that says, and a super admin can reset passwords. And so, you know, my account is able to, well, not my account, the super user admin account, because it's not mine, has the ability to reset somebody's master password, which would then let them get in. And it does that through a secondary encryption. And I don't know the exact details of how the technology works, but it's still encrypted on the other end, and only the person who has the password for the super admin can decrypt that. So it's almost like it encrypts it with both passwords.
Is that what you're talking about, Mario? Because I'm super skeptical that you could, without logging into a single user account, transfer that, because that if I can do it, then so could a criminal.
Well, you have to do it through the admin account, like the MSP account.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm tracking you now. Okay.
Which means, again, the super admin account should be highly protected with a outrageously long password that nobody can breach with two-factor authentication.
Now, let me ask you this, and this I have not confirmed. Maybe you guys could confirm this for me, because now I want to combine our two topics: keyloggers and two-factor authentication. I was told that if a hacker gains a password like that 6-digit code, and then knows what the next 6-digit code is, or at least knows the timing of the next 6-digit code, he can then backwards engineer what the encryption key is. So, for example, these codes, Okay, in
Thanks,
30
Mario.
seconds.
Yeah.
These codes in 30 seconds, if you know what the code is, the code is in 30 seconds, if he knows what one is and then the next one is, he then knows what essentially is that QR code. I heard that essentially
in 17 more seconds, I'm going to ask you to show me that screen again.
Yeah,
I've
and then we'll be
already
able to tell
screenshotted
you.
the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, they're numbers,
I know,
but essentially, I heard that once those numbers reset, that like he can predict what the next one is going to be. So
well, it's math. So this is an interesting point because there is no such thing as a truly randomized computer-generated number. It can't be done.
Yeah.
The computers can't do it. So they seed it and then they run calculations on it. The typical seed is a clock, right? Which is, I think, what you're talking about. They take the local time and they run some stupid algorithm on it and spit out a random number. And random is in air quotes, guys, because computers can't randomly generate anything. So I assume that's what you're referring to, or some version of that. I'm sure that is true. And I would just say that, generally speaking, in the world of security, nothing's absolute, nothing's perfect.
No.
Which is why we layer, which is why we stack, and which is why we sit here and talk about it week after week and make adjustments to how we operate, right? Two-factor authentication is a phenomenal tool, but it's not foolproof. In fact, in this one, the last pass, there was some version of bypassing 2FA in the breach. They got the keystroke logger on there, and they were able to somehow bypass, and I don't have details on that, but they were able to bypass 2FA. So, maybe it's what you're talking about. Maybe it's reverse engineering.
Yeah, I believe they're able to, if they're able to see the number at, like, say 3:01 p.m. They know in a few minutes that code is, like, if it's entered again 5 minutes later, that code is, that's what the next code is.
Interesting. I may have to research that. I can't even speak intelligently to that. I haven't heard that, but
that's why I'm not sure either.
Yeah, the brains that create encryption and that crack encryption are different from the brain that I was gifted with. I will not sit here and tell you that I am a hacker, a white hat hacker, or anything else. I learn, I research, I study, and I protect. That is what I'm good at. I'll never be the guy that's cracking codes, though. So.
And I think we've mentioned it a couple times throughout different episodes, but at the end of the day, it's just being the not being the low hanging fruit. So as much as we can put it in place, if somebody's absolutely 100% dedicated to breaking into your account and your systems, they probably will at some point or another. But most hacks occur because you're the low hanging fruit, and they're able to breach you easier than they can breach somebody else.
Yeah, unfortunately, every week we always talk about what you can do to prevent something like this. It is very, very hard to prevent a hardware keylogger, because if somebody puts that little piece behind your computer, unless you're checking every morning, it's very hard to prevent that. So, the way to do this, lock your door, stuff
physical
like that.
Security, essentially.
Physical, yeah.
Right. And physical security is one that we don't talk a lot about in the world of cybersecurity, but it is a key component. It's an important part. We will probably talk with our clients about securing their IT room, their server room, if they still have servers, physically securing those. But how often do we have conversations about physically securing workstations, and keyboards, because some of these keystroke loggers are embedded in the keyboard itself. So you just, hey, I gotta swap this keyboard for and somehow, or sometimes, how they breach physical security is they will come in posing as a vendor of some sort.
Yeah.
ISPs is a perfect one. Your internet provider shows up and says, hey, I got to look at your router. And they go back there and snap a picture of the stupid password that they print right on the goddamn router that internet companies like to give you. I've heard of that happening. But yeah, they could come in as a janitor, right? And did we already talk about the janitor? Was that before we started recording or afterwards?
That was before we started
All right,
recording.
We better do that one.
So I actually sat in a meeting. Now, this wasn't a customer. We didn't actually earn him as a customer. It was somebody we sat down with. He was telling us about a breach that actually happened to them. I think at that point it was like a couple years prior, where the cleaning lady was paid by somebody to go in there and change. I think she changed the hardware, like the keyboard, or she put something on the computer and then gave hackers or whoever paid her access to gain that person's computer, and then they were breached through there. It took them a very long time to realize what it was, and I think it was because they decided to. They weren't sure what was happening. They actually got rid of all their computers. They got brand new computers,
Oh,
started
wow.
over, and that's during that process is how they discovered like there was something there.
Wow.
Yeah. I heard a
And
story once upon a time where I won't get into the specifics, but the son of a very high influential person at a company was compromised themselves. They were doing something they really ought not to on their computer, and they were blackmailed into essentially on their father's computer install a keylogger. And so physical security would have been the only way to prevent, even against your own internal family, right? Like it's amazing at what people can do when they really, really want to get into somewhere.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, there was a story about, you can pretty much get into anywhere if you have a clipboard and a reflective jacket. And there's actually like YouTube videos that you could see of people doing just that. They just throw a reflective jacket on, bring a keyboard or a clipboard, and they just like walk in at pretty much any business, say, hey, yeah, we're here to do X, Y, Z, and the people just let them in, and from there they can do whatever they want. They can, slap a keylogger on any piece of hardware, and I'm amazed at how many people don't lock their server rooms. Oh, we trust all our employees. Sure you do, right? Like it doesn't take much to bribe somebody to install something anywhere.
Yeah.
And physical
Plus,
security
if
is
you
one way to
trust
prevent
all
that.
your employees, I'm sorry, that's a bad strategy. Every good
Trust but
employee,
verify.
well, yeah, but I mean you don't know who's going to turn and for what reasons.
well, that's why like cards, like cards to log into a computer is getting very popular. Facial recognition, like with my tablet, I just click it and it recognizes my face. You'd think that that's like, not secure, but it's actually probably one of the most secure methods than putting in a password or a PIN. Facial recognition and stuff like that, for your phone as well. Getting through that way is very secure.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. I still don't know that I have an answer for, how to prevent the janitor from throwing a hardware keystroke logger on your workstation when they're there by themselves at night. So that I don't like that one. I don't even like talking about stuff like that I don't have an answer for, but I don't.
Short of instructing everybody to take a look at everything, on their computer, or putting the computers behind lock and key at the desk, right? But like, who's going to do that? Right?
I mean, be careful when you select your vendors for sure. But like I said, everybody can be compromised depending on, whether they have dirt on them or they pay them enough. You can get people to turn. So, but it is at least something worth, having on the table that you talk about is physical security and vendor security. How do you vet your vendors and so. God, that's kind of a dark note to end on. I don't like that. let's talk about things we can do. What we've learned here that we can do to prevent, at least mitigate or prevent some of this or most of this. In the last pass scenario, one of the things I picked up on immediately is, number one, shadow IT, like we talked about. The guy had stuff. This is a computer in his home that he's using, like for a highly like. Jesus Christ, if you're at home and you're a main developer and you're working for somebody like LastPass, a big security company, I mean, I cannot imagine why you would put anything on your computer other than what you needed to do your software development.
Yeah, you should only be working from a company issued workstation or laptop.
With no applications on it whatsoever outside of what you need, and then, man, you better be on a VPN, and you better have like, I don't know, key card access to your own bedroom. I don't know, but like, this is risky, this work from home movement, and it's interesting as that starts to get walked back a little bit, where I'm seeing more and more companies saying, come back to the office. A lot of people complaining about it, but if you are going to work from home, security better be higher on your list of priorities than it was when everybody was in the office.
Yeah,
Garmin was breached that way. When the great big Garmin breach a couple years ago, it was the COVID work from home movement that got them. Somebody on a home computer had VPN access right back into the corporate. So every security thing, protection that they'd put in place at the headquarters, you send people home, they use their home computer, and you poke a hole right through everything with their VPN, and boom,
Yeah. As far as software
keyloggers,
yeah, as far as software keyloggers, a good way to make sure that those don't come in is preventing anyone from being able to install applications on a workstation and or using zero trust software, meaning that any application that runs has to be already a piece of software that is trusted by the computer. Otherwise, it just kills the process. That would get rid of software keyloggers. Hardware ones are a little bit more difficult because you actually there's the information coming right out of your keyboard. I could see down the road there being some sort of authentication happening between a keyboard and a computer down the road, but that's just not the case right now. Anything can impersonate a keyboard, and so yeah.
And also a lot of things too is if you're running like a legitimate security tools on the computer, like Sentinel-1 or anything like that, it will most likely detect a lot of the software keylogging because essentially it's malware, so it's going to detect that stuff. So you want to make sure that you're running like security on your computers and your network.
Yeah. And then we're gonna, come back to this every single time, is get a third-party assessment. I've got we do this podcast, I run promotions elsewhere. I'm constantly beating this drum of these assessments, and it shocks me how many times people will look me in the eye and say, "No, we got it covered. We're good." I mean, this is my world, and I don't trust myself.
So fun thing. I had a feeling this existed, so I researched it just now. There's literally a keyboard you can buy that you need a piece of software on your computer that will send encrypted keystrokes to the computer, and the software will decrypt it. So a hardware keylogger would not be able to intercept any of the communications. Yeah. So as long as you're using the keyboard that is designed for it. How much, I don't know, and I don't know how practical it is, but I could see that becoming the standard down the road, where the keyboard is especially in public places where you're not locking down the rooms where computers are being utilized. I could, even when they are, I could see that becoming the standard very soon, where people can't use keyloggers because the keyboards are customized per computer, and there's an encryption between the two.
Yeah, actually, I think as a matter of fact, I think when I had to get that keylogger for my church, I think I actually got it from Amazon. Like, it's very easy to get this stuff. I mean, I just looked on Amazon. I don't see anymore, but I know that there's this big thing now is this what's called the mouse jiggler. That's a little USB that you put into the computer. And for people working from home, is that it doesn't make the user go idle, because that's how you can, owners tend to tell if a user is working or not, if they're going idle, like in Microsoft Teams or not. So this little USB will go into the computer, and it's like $6, and it'll literally move your mouse every couple seconds so you don't ever look idle, and they think that you're being productive.
Yeah.
It's
the games.
It's crazy.
The games. Now we're back to just do your work.
Do your homework. There is no easy way.
If you're drawing a paycheck, I mean, provide a service. Anyways, no more soapbox stuff for me though. I do too much of that as it is. So yeah, I mean, there are some protocols here. Like I'm not saying I'm there yet, Brian, but I that's an interesting thing that you just found. I love that every time I do one of these, record one of these podcasts, is I learn something. And that just might have to make my internal set of standards that I at least bring awareness to, securing keyboards. Who thought? Right? Who knew this? That's what we'd be talking about, is encrypted keyboards. For crying out loud. But
Technology would be easy to implement. It can't like if they standardize it across the board, it would be dirt simple. I mean, it would be a pain in the butt having to program each computer to work with a unique keyboard, but yeah, it would be. The technology is so readily available now that
if nothing else on your key players, like again, I'm just like I'm blown away by a developer who has that kind of access on that critical of a system not being locked down better. That's shocking to me. So yeah, if nothing else, my conversation with my clients will say, okay, here's who are your key players, your finance people, your every executive, at least those people probably are going to get encrypted keyboards moving forward. So I'll have to do a little more research there and update my internal standards, and that is the game, right? Every few minutes it seems we're reevaluating
these
how we do this.
owners are going to look at us and laugh in our faces like, you want me to encrypt the keyboards?
Yeah,
like you guys are a bunch of crazy people.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we do this, right?
Yeah.
Because the general population doesn't know, and hell, I didn't know this before we started researching it. I would have never thought that an encrypted keyboard would be the answer to anything.
Yeah, but I guess it would all depend on the situation. If you have got a bank, then that might be a good thing to put in place, right? Encrypted keyboards. But if you're working at, a gas station, maybe not that important, right? So it's a situational thing. Maybe not all the employees, have to have that, but maybe your finance and your executives, any organizations dealing with millions of dollars, what's a cheap keyboard that does encryption cost in relation to the potential damage?
Well, I think it comes down to A, what does the individual have access to, and B, how big of a target do they have on their back?
Yeah.
Right. So if you have access to the vault for LastPass, let's go ahead and take some extra precautions. And if you're the CEO of a large organization, you always have a target. So these are the people that we need to go above and beyond. But yeah, for the everyday user, probably not so much. So I don't know, guys, this was an interesting one. I'm kind of ready to wind it down, but I'm not going to lie, I've got some things to think about. So,
same here.
It's the good and the bad of doing this. It's kind of nice to not think about this stuff and not be scared all the time. But damn, there is a lot. There's a lot to think about. So that said, and to some extent, you guys, we're all kind of auditing ourselves as we record these and research them. But then we also all pay for and utilize a third-party service to audit ourselves, our work, and to look over our back. So that is our ongoing offer to the community at large. You cannot sit here and say I'm protected, I've got it handled. You just I mean, there are cases, sure, but like for the most part, 90% of the population, 99% of the population, if you're comfortable with security, you're the biggest risk. You're now the low-hanging fruit. If you're comfortable, if you're sleeping at night, I've got it handled. I don't need this assessment. I'm good. Okay. Best of luck to you. I'll see you at doing remediation.
The next news article.
Yeah. So jump on our website, guys, unhacked.live. There is a section, I think I called it free assessment. I actually forgot what I named it. So I'm going to look real quick. Free assessment. All right. There's a tab right at the top, free assessment. There's another tab for people, and you can see a little bio and links to all of our social media for the three of us. So jump on there, reach out, and we'll put another set of eyes on it for you. Mario, any final thoughts?
No, just, next week, are we going live? Are we recording live?
That's the plan. Yep.
Ooh, excellent.
All right, cool. And we're talking about passwords and how to handle them.
Okay, so we've kind of already spoiler alerted the hell out of that one, but yeah, we are still.
Thanks, Mario.
Well, aren't we?
No, I don't mean him. I mean the episode today. We talked a lot about passwords.
Thanks,
we are. There's still a lot to say about passwords that we did not get into. Here's a teaser, because Brian, I think it was you, said if you've got the master admin, super duper access to a password manager for your entire team, you better have a really long password. and it needs to be complex. It needs to be unhackable, I think is what you said, or
and it better not be your own account you're using every day.
Yeah, so we'll break that down. How do you do that, right? How do you make your password unhackable? Next week, tune in, and we will try to do that one live. I'm saying that cautiously optimistic, but I think we can pull it off. So, all right, Bryan, do you have any final thoughts?
My final thoughts is just become 1% better every day, and that's the best we can ask for.
I love it. All right, UnHacked.live, guys, reach out to us, get your free vulnerability assessment scheduled, and be 1% better. All right, take care. See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.